This is Geek Gab with your hosts, Dornall and me, Daddy Warpig. We are back, Geek Gab, for Monday, February 17th, 2024. And we want to welcome you to a very special not Halloween. Not Valentine's Day. Yes, that's the one. A very special Valentine's Day episode of the show. And we're going to be covering three very, very great romance movies today. Skydance and Apple TV plus Apple Studios. Yes, Apple Studios. The Gorge. Love Hurts, starring Short Round and Data, fresh off his amazing win for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and also my quote-unquote reading of The Fourth Wing, a young adult book masquerading as a romance book, masquerading as an epic fantasy book all about dragon riders on the forefront of a fantasy war in a foreign land. But before we get to our reviews, we have some other things we wanted to talk about.
Hey, point of order, GW. I forgot to tell you this last week, but it is actually 2025. We are in the new year now. So, yeah. I regret to inform you that that people listening later are going to think that they've gone back in time and gone to 2024.
Oh, right. Time still flows the other way.
Yeah.
My bad.
The rest of us have not ascended the shackles of time like you have.
I'm not saying I get thrust into some kind of Tenet device at some point in my life. I'm just saying time still flows the opposite way for people. I got it.
You're not saying it. You're not saying it. We get you.
It is 2025. I should say that more often. I've gotten that right so far, other than last week and this week, apparently.
Yeah, and probably the week before. Who knows? Who's listening? Who's counting?
No, I did it right the week before because I was really, really concentrating.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Valentine's Day because I don't really. Valentine's Day has never been a thing that I've celebrated bigly. I like to do nice things for my beloved any time of the year. I don't need a special day for it.
Oh, yeah, and this Valentine's Day, you guys went and visited Alan Wake. You literally went into I'm not kidding, folks. He sent me a picture. He went into the video game Alan Wake. He sent me a picture from that insane asylum lodge. He was right there inside the insane asylum lodge. Did you see the old gods of Asgard throw a metal concert?
No, I don't. I actually don't get the reference. I know what Alan Wake is. I've just never played it.
Yeah, no, it was exactly what I said in my tweet. They're a heavy metal band. They play a heavy metal concert in that lodge.
That's great.
That's it. That's the reference.
I went to a nice one of those old hunting lodges in the forest and had a great relaxing weekend. I am totally pumped and refreshed for everything.
That's hunting lodge in the forest. That's Alan Wake. It looked exactly like it. Same fireplace, same brickwork, same. I believe it had the same antelope.
I wonder if they used it as a reference.
And guess where the town in Alan Wake is?
It's got to be in Washington.
It is in Washington.
That's great.
You think I was joking?
I didn't. I just didn't have the frame of reference to really appreciate it.
So, well, happy Valentine's Day for you and the missus.
Yeah.
I did something on Valentine's Day, but I'll be damned if I can remember what. I'm not kidding. I don't remember Friday, and I'm pretty fuzzy on Saturday. Did I go see the movies on Friday?
Maybe.
Yes, I saw one of the movies. I saw The Gorge on Friday because somebody posted that they were going to go see it, and I'm like, oh, is it out yet? And they're like, yeah, just like barely released, like a few hours ago. And I'm like, oh, I wanted to see that, so I saw The Gorge, and that would be a perfect segue, but I'm not ready to segue yet. I sneer at that segue as it passes me by. Let's see. Oh, terrible headline today. In Quinnipiac Bay, there was a seal that they caught a quarter of a mile from the bay, and the police called it a loose seal. And my thought was that it is a damn shame when the police officers in this country have stooped to slut shaming animals. I just feel like that was completely unprofessional.
Man, what is the world coming to?
If they really felt the need, they could have called it a seal of ill repute. I would have been fine with that. A soiled seal, if they wanted to have a Western reference in there, but calling it a loose seal, that's just hurtful.
Right. Yeah. We don't need that kind of language in here. Actually, I thought you were going to go the other way with a different reference, a loose seal in the water. That'd be a great Arrested Development.
Oh, somebody posted that GIF. So that snuck into the thread. And somebody else pointed me that that's actually a really serious issue, that I shouldn't make light of loose seals because a loose seal caused the Challenger disaster. So
that's a deep cut.
I was properly chastened by the fact I was making jokes about loose seals. So this is the kind of nonsense we get up to on Twitter.
Yeah. Speaking of Twitter, I've got a little bit of gaming thing to share.
That's a segue.
Hey, we've been at this for a while.
It's a quality segue. That's awesome.
Yeah. I will say that the tabletop RPG discussion has devolved a bit. If you really want to know what the bright minds are thinking, you can get off Twitter now, because the Broasar are fun and everything. But if the best work is still being done at places like Bradford C. Walker's blog, hey man, it's good to see you in the chat. So there's your shout out. But Gelatinous Rube on Twitter asks a great question, because we're sick of the fighting. We're sick of the stupid arguments over, what way Gary played or what Rob Kuntz knows or whatever. Get that junk out of here. But here's a great question from Gelatinous Rube. Anybody who's been part of a Bronstein, what's the most successful one you can recall? I'm actually looking forward to some discussion on this, because there's a lot of positive stuff to be learned from Bronsteins. For my money, it was the Charge of the Douche Brigade, the Battle Bronstein done by Jeff Rowe in Who Caresville. And that link is on my Twitter at DoranalGG. It's on screen if you guys are watching this on YouTube. Really good discussion there. Follow Gelatinous Rube. He's at Rube Jelly on Twitter. I'm going to keep calling it Twitter till the day I die. And really good stuff. You can learn a lot. I think special mention, the other most successful one I can recall was the Cyberpunk Bronstein that I ran, because we proved how good Broser was at setting up a Bronstein. It tells you what you need to know to successfully run one with almost no preparation. And I still owe you guys a blog post on that. I talked about it here on the show. I did a big recap on This Is Dunder Moose podcast. So go check those out. But I still owe you guys a full blog report. Coming one day. Maybe.
Let's see. In gaming news, Avowed, which had a art director who was avowedly modern audiences inclined, got some static for his anti-consumer practices and had to reverse a lot of them. However, apparently that did not help it do good launch numbers. People still just did not tune in. And it's available for free for people who have Game Pass, and that also did not help very much. I mean, it's one thing when you have to buy a game like Star Wars Outlaws that they're still charging like $80 for or $70 for. But when a game is free on Game Pass and you literally own Game Pass, as I do, and still don't download and play it, that's a bad sign for your game. So, yeah, Avowed not having a good launch week. I haven't seen the numbers. I'm just getting feedback from other people that are saying that it's not doing well.
Oh, that's a shame. That's all I got for news this week. I've been mostly heads down and away from nonsense.
I've started reviewing another sort of semi-romance adjacent TV series. Not reviewing it, watching it. I may review it on the show. I may not. It's a sci-fi series from 2017. They call it a Grindhouse series. I just got that joke. Oh, that's just the worst pun ever.
I'm sorry?
Okay, so here's the pun in the name. You know what the Grindhouse cinema was, right?
Yeah.
Cinema filled with a bunch of violence, bunch of nudity. Tarantino and the Robert Rodriguez did two movies that they featured together.
Yeah, they called it Grindhouse after that style.
Right.
It was Death Trap
Planet
and
Planet Terror.
Planet Terror.
Yeah. So, Death Proof and Planet Terror. So, they made this 13 episode series for Sci-Fi. It was supposed to go longer, I think, but they only got one season. So, it's supposed to have been in the style of a Grindhouse. So even though it was released in 2017, it's set in the distant future of 1999. And because of fracking, there was this massive geological disturbance that split America in half, literally in half, from Mexico to California or to Canada. And there was this deep like canyon, like maybe a mile, maybe 2 mile, maybe deeper, and shook the earth. Gasoline became so rare, it's $500 a gallon. People died. LA is this completely almost depopulated, devastated city. So this one corporation has taken over just about everything, and they got a bunch of chemicals and stuff from inside this. They call it the Scar. And this isn't actually a bad setup for the right kind of fun role-playing campaign, right? A little bit cheesy, sort of a cross between like Cyberpunk without the cyber, and there's monsters that are kind of like smarter zombies that grew big heavy talons and things. And I've only seen 3 episodes so far because I was preparing for this show, so I didn't have time to watch all 13 yet. But it's about a death race. That's what the series is centered on. And in this death race, in order to substitute gasoline, they have cars that run off of blood.
Whoa.
So now I just want you to take the physics of that, just put it aside, because that's honestly not the point in shows like this. That's not the point in settings like this. Like in the original Gamma world, we all know that mutation doesn't work like that. We know that you don't get struck with radiation and grow an extra hand. That doesn't happen in this show. I'm just saying, the physics aren't the point. Pointing out that that doesn't physically work, that's not the point. You're missing the point of the show. But here's the thing. Here's the pun I just got. In order to put blood into the engines of the cars, some cars you open up the hood, some cars there's a hopper on the side, but they literally put bodies, living people, into the cars, and the engines grind them up.
Grindhouse. Very clever.
I just got that joke as I was sitting here live on the air. So and it's not bad. You saw the Jack Reacher TV show?
Yes.
That guy, Alan Richardson, right?
Yeah.
He's also in this show. He plays like the one last decent human being left on the planet.
Naturally.
I mean, it's on one level, and I don't mean this in a quality sense. I mean this in a moral sense. It's terrible. It's terrible. But on another level, it's like they're playing with it, so they're not taking it really seriously. I don't know. I've enjoyed the three. I understand people who want to come to me and say, how can you watch this? It's morally awful. Yeah. I'm enjoying it. Maybe I'll hate it because the show could just dive in quality after, episode 4 or something. That happens. But the first 3 episodes I'm watching to do a full review, and I haven't hated them. I've enjoyed them. Okay. I enjoy the movie about the TV series about people throwing. My only problem with the show is that throwing bodies into an open-hooded car to grind them up to get blood is a really bad way to extract blood. Because you're throwing slurry all over the place and you're losing so much of the blood.
Yeah, the conversion rate is not good there.
I mean, the very first scene, they show the character, she's literally, after she, fuels up her vehicle, she's literally covered in blood, like head to toe. Her clothes are soaked in it. And I'm just thinking, that's just a waste of fuel. So apparently I'm in the right frame of mind to watch the show.
Yeah. Remember that the physics aren't important of it.
Yeah, I'm not considering, how appalling and immoral the act she's engaging is. I'm just considering, lady, how much fuel have you just So, apparently I've lost my whole entire moral compass from like 3 minutes of the show. Anyways,
depraved.
It's just cartoonish and clownish. It's not like serious, There are some ways to do things like that, like Hostel. I haven't seen it, but it's like deadly chilling serious, right? It's almost like watching real torture, I've been told. And this is just not. It's so clownish, you can't really take it. Let me tell you how clownish it is. they have shot scenes in the TV show without any actual nudity and then put black censorship bars over it to imply that there was nudity because Grindhouse Cinema had to do that. So it's not seriously taking any of the material seriously. And I guess depending on where you come from, that could be even more offensive. But, you know, there's kind of a romance going on between the good guy cop and the, you know, and the girl who they kind of hate each other, but they got stuck together to go on this race, and neither, you know, he really didn't want to do this. So in every episode, they take a different common element of a Grindhouse movie and they stick it in the show. So at one point they mention cults, right? And I'm like, oh, they're going to have a religious cult? Jeez, that's just what I need. Like a whole show. Some preacher pounding the Bible and you know, talking about how bad Christians are. That's great. I'm just gonna and the hilarious thing about it is the cult has nothing to do with religion. It is entirely different, and it is hilarious. It is so. That's episode 3, by the way. The cult. It's so funny. And again, if you're looking for realism, you're going to say, well, realistically, that kind of cult just wouldn't arise. I mean, there is no way that would develop from a society in this. It's not the point of the show. That's really not. So I'm getting a kick out of it because it's so over the top. I can't take it seriously.
We like over the top.
So yeah. Either we are so enthralling with the show that nobody wants to comment, or we're dying out here. We've been we may as well have been tossed into car engines that are grinding us up. That's how bad the show is going. We're so enthralling, the audience just has nothing to say. They're just staring at the TV. I mean, I watched, was it Death Race, the original Death Race 2000. They made a sequel to it. I watched the sequel to it, not the remake universe that had 3 separate movies. I mean, Roger Corman, who made the original Death Race 2000, made a sequel, like Death Race 2050, I think. It was awful. We reviewed it. I reviewed it on the show. This is far better as a sequel, as a spiritual sequel. That's what they call them nowadays. This is a far better spiritual sequel to Death Race 2000 than what Roger Corman did. And I know this is sounding like a review. I'm really not trying to do a full review because I haven't seen it. It's also tons better than the Twisted Metal show, the second season of which is supposedly coming out soon.
I'll be sure.
I may watch that to review that. There's another show that was coming out with a second season that. I wanted to ask that. What's his name? Dawn of the Dead. Not George Romero. Not George Romero. The other guy. 300. Zack Snyder.
Oh, Zack Snyder, yeah.
His second movie came out for Rebel Moon. I don't remember watching that. I don't remember reviewing that. Am I wrong?
No, I think we talked about it. I think you reviewed it.
Because I remember the first one ending, and I remember the extended cut coming out, but I don't remember the second one. And maybe that's because it was so forgettable, I just forgot it. I'm definitely going to have to go back on Netflix and check to see if I watched that at all. Anyways, okay, now it's time for a rushed and completely inappropriate. Oh wait, no, let me see. I can do this. I can do this. Blood, murder, racing in cars, hot women. Let's talk about Love Hurts.
Let's do it.
Love Hurts is a movie that is kind of like a mix between Mr. Nobody and John Wick, and it's made by one of the fight choreographers from John Wick. And it stars, like I was saying, Short Round and dang it, you heard this at the beginning of the show. You're not jumping in to help me.
No, I don't remember. Short Round, the guy from Data from the Goonies.
Data. Yes, that's the name I was trying to remember. Data. I don't remember his name, but that's the actor. And he was in Everything Everywhere All at Once. And he won, I think he won an Oscar, or if not, a Golden Globe.
Yes, I think you're right about that. Everything Everywhere All at Once won a lot of awards.
So he used to be this brutal, violent, cruel, murderous enforcer for the mob. And then he reformed. He became a realtor. He's been trying to go straight ever since then. Until something happens and all these old people from his old life show up and drag him back into this living hell. And he has to fight to try and get back out of it, including the woman that he was in love with back in the day. Now, it is not like John Wick or Mr. Nobody in the sense that there are not a lot of fights where he is kicking butt the whole show. He is out of practice for years, and so he is barely surviving every single one of these fights by the skin of his teeth. He gets seriously hurt in all of them. And I know Mr. Nobody and John Wick both get seriously hurt, but this guy, you are really seriously concerned he actually might die. The movie has a really low budget, and the script is kind of uneven, but it was still a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. It's got good action, some uneven performances, but some really good performances too. His co-star, who is in Rudy and who is the muscle brother in that Adam Sandler movie.
The Adam Sandler movie?
41st Dates.
Let me see if I can find him for you.
Samwise Gamgee, that actor.
Sean Astin?
Sean Astin is also in it.
Oh, yeah.
And when I saw Sean Astin and Data both in the same movie, I was wondering if any other Goonies alums were going to show up. They do not. Spoiler.
Darn.
But
the trailers made sure to let you know that Marshawn Lynch was in it too. You cannot miss him.
Was he the really, really big guy in the trench coat?
The really big guy. He's the I don't know about the trench coat, but he's the really big black guy who looks like he played running back in the NFL because he played running back in the NFL.
He would have to be the big guy in the trench coat then.
Yep.
He has an interesting part. The theme of love and what you will do and what you won't do for love, it runs throughout it, and it really is kind of a romancy Valentine's Day, but those are all subplots to the eventual coming showdown between the two brothers. Oh yeah, the gangster he used to work for was his brother.
Yes. Of course.
So it's it's good. I I wouldn't honestly go pay full ticket price for it, but it's definitely something worth renting or watching at least once on streaming or whatever. It's worth 2 hours of your time. I did not feel cheated of my money, but
Yeah, that
was,
one definitely looked like a rental to me. Um, might check it out on streaming.
I don't really have much to say about it. It isn't noticeably bad.
I
It
mean,
just
based on what you're saying, I mean, the trailer was pretty extensive about laying out the basic plot and the setup and showing you a bunch of action. And it sounds like you're getting exactly what it says on the tin.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, and it's all worthwhile. I mean, there are a couple of surprises in there. A couple of characters go different directions that you don't expect. So some of the fights are really cool, but not as good as the ones in Mister Nobody or John Wick. I'll be honest. So if you're going in expecting that level of fights, I would ratchet down your expectations.
Mm-hmm.
They're good fights. They're just not phenomenal fights. They're good enough. Um, but I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was solid. It was solid entertainment, and it didn't lecture you. There was no um, there's no politics. There was nothing about anybody's pet cause. It didn't tell you to um, whatever. And there were some genuinely decent characters in there that that are good role models, and not like reformed villains, like genuinely decent people who had been decent their whole lives, uh, and you know that was nice to see. It was really heartwarming in a couple of places, genuinely heartwarming in a couple of places. So, yeah. Um, let's go to the Gorge.
The
Uh,
Gorge. I don't know. Going to the Gorge, it sounds like a dangerous place.
I really like this movie.
Yeah, just sat down and watched it myself.
Oh,
Um,
did you?
yes, just got through it. Um, right on time for the show, in fact. Uh, because someone told me it was on the list. It's on Apple TV, which normally is a sign that you're about to get overpriced or overproduced pretentious slop. But yeah, no, they came out with like a somehow strangely, soft-hearted, uh, romantic action flick with big sci-fi elements in it. Um,
And some really great monsters.
yeah, some really cool monsters. This is uh, so I did like it a lot too. It's the setup. If you haven't seen the pitch or the trailer or anything, there's this gorge in some unknown European country, and there's a watchtower on the east side of the gorge and a watchtower on the west side of the gorge, and and it's been there since like World War II, and there's a single guard at each watchtower, one from the Western nations and one from the Eastern nations, and their job is to keep whatever it is down there in the gorge, and some genius decided that at the start of the movie that this time the guard that they're going to put in this year is a woman, which naturally the two on the other side, the two guards who are not supposed to communicate, they meet each other, they talk to each other, they fall in love, but more importantly, they go deal with the monsters that are in the gorge. That's it. That's the setup. Who came up with this? Because yes, I want to watch that.
And the nice thing about the trailer is the trailer doesn't give away anything. It tells you the premise and doesn't give away anything.
Yeah. It's guy sniper, girl sniper, fall in love, there's monsters, there's gorge, whatever. Watch it. You want to watch it.
The movie shows you exactly how far Marines will go to get laid.
Setting aside the dozen or so absurdities of the plot and things that happen in there, you get so the characters are played by Anya Taylor-Joy, and I forget, and I should have had this up already. So Anya Taylor-Joy is playing a Russian sniper, and the what else has he been in? Miles Teller, he's been in a bunch of stuff.
He was in Fanforstic. He was in the movie with the drummer.
Great Balls of Fire, Top Gun Maverick. That's the one I was thinking of.
Oh yeah, Top Gun Maverick, of course.
Yeah, he played Goose's son in Top Gun Maverick.
Did a damn fine job.
Yeah. So he's been in a bunch of stuff. He's good at playing the Marine role. And what is great is, and I have actually not been impressed with Anya Taylor-Joy much, but even though she's given the thankless job of being a kick-ass wayfish sniper, top 5 sniper in the world, the chemistry between them is great. I loved all the scenes they had together, even when they're like communicating via written messages over the gorge and everything. And then when the shit hits the fan and the action starts, it's really fun and exciting to watch.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, I don't want to give too much away because I think it's definitely a watch. Like if you're already subscribing to Apple TV, watch it. If you've got a what's it called, a free week or a free month or something, sign up and watch it. It's pretty good.
Sigourney Weaver is in it.
Oh yeah, Sigourney Weaver is and as soon as you see her and this, you're like, okay, like you're gonna know exactly where all of this is going, right? So you just get to sort of sit down and enjoy, the ride as the characters in the movie sort of discover everything that you already figured out from the first 5 minutes, right? I do have one thing to say about it that is not a compliment because yes, eventually they go into the gorge, they face whatever's down there, and once it hits that point, it feels and looks a lot like a video game. I thought I was watching Resident Evil or a cutscene from Gears of War or Quake or something. It was
specifically, it reminded me of the shadow level of Baldur's Gate 3, kind of.
Yeah. That's not a compliment, but in addition to the typical ham-fisted CGI monsters, which they're mediocre as usual, there were lots of cool sets and cool props and everything that sort of made the gorge really spooky and brought it to life. And the action was fun. At the very least, like if you're gonna make me feel like it's in a video game, at least make it fun, and it was. It was a lot of fun all the way through. Gosh, what was your favorite part?
I really like the pieces in the gorge. Anything to do with the monsters, I was on board for. The specific form the Hollow Men took, because they were mixed, right? They were mixed between two things. When he fell off the tree and landed, and they had to get him out of that stuff at the bottom, it would have been gorier, so maybe that wouldn't have worked with what the rating they were searching for. I would have liked it better if the Hollow Men had been more like that, though.
Yeah. That would be. Yeah, that would add a little more menace to it. Menace to the monsters, I think.
But they would have been a lot more gruesome.
Honestly, I liked the sets. I liked the watchtower and the thing about the watchtower is that it's this lonely, miserable existence. But to be honest, after just coming home from a vacation in a lodge, I turned to my wife and I was like, I'd take you on a vacation to watch the gorge for a year. let's get away from civilization for a year. I think we can handle that. And the countryside was beautiful. It looked like it might have been filmed in a place like British Columbia with forests, evergreen forests everywhere.
I could totally buy. The thing I liked about the sets and the equipment and stuff is that it was all really, really credible. I totally could buy that as being something that was, World War II vintage that had been there for 80 years. Made perfect sense. I mean,
and those are the other sets I really liked, was the old stuff, like leftover Cold War sort of.
Oh yeah.
Buildings and things. Absolutely love that. Credible. That's a great way to put it.
Because sometimes you look at things and they just absolutely do not look like what they're supposed to be. And I just think back to the first of the J.J. Abrams Star Trek, when he had them setting up in a real like chemical plant or a milk plant or something, and that was supposed to be the Enterprise. And it never looked like the Enterprise. It always looked like they had a couple of terminals set up around in a 20th century chemical plant. It never looked like a starship. It was not credible. So I'm going back to 2007. Sorry, guys. That was 17 years ago. But yeah, these sets were completely credible. And the equipment they used, the guns they used, the uniforms they wore, all that stuff. It was all. I'm not saying it was actually authentic to real equipment. I'm just saying it was. None of it stuck out as being like, oh, this couldn't be real, or oh, that looks like something that's completely fake. It all looked.
It was all plausible. It looked like it could have come from something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially the concrete bunkers they were, living in.
Yeah. Oh, and the fact that every guy who was there left a little quote on the wall after the first guy did it, that became like a tradition, totally makes sense. Absolutely. Yeah. And then that it became kind of a plot point that that was well done. I think that was well done screenwriting. Um, and that's the sort of thing that kind of gets laid in earlier that becomes important later, but it's it doesn't feel like it was shoehorned in, or it doesn't feel like it's just there for the plot. It just feels like something that people in that situation would or could, just do completely organically. I mean, so yeah, I thought they did a really good job of thinking things through, and all of their prep leading up to filming the movie, or in writing the script or whatever. And again, I'm not saying it's a perfect movie. It has its flaws, but I thought a lot of it was great. I thought, especially like setting up her relationship with her father.
Sure.
That scene was a fabulous scene, but it also did a good job of setting up her motivation why she wanted to reach out and talk to somebody. Setting up his, his situation of the nightmares he has and things like that. That provided him with the proper motivation. I think all the people who worked or whoever worked on the script did a solid job of making it all come together. So yeah, I mean, it was a solid effort, and I really enjoyed it. And I loved the sort of spider things.
Yeah. Yeah, I won't say any more just to avoid spoilers. That was great.
All right. So let's go to some dragons, which are not science fictional, they are fantasy. And I don't want to be cruel and I don't want to be insulting. I listened to this audiobook while I was playing Fallout 4, because I can play Fallout while listening to an audiobook and focus enough on the audiobook to actually listen to it, because the way I play Fallout 4, I don't need to listen to a lot of the sound. I can just play it. I don't have to listen to a lot of the text. So this audiobook, Fourth Wing, which is the first of a trilogy, Amazon's been pushing on me for a while. And it was on Kindle Unlimited, so I could get it for free. And once you get it for free on Kindle Unlimited, you can buy the audiobook for way cheaper. So I bought the way cheap audiobook, and it was 21 hours and 22 minutes. So I spent 21 hours and 22 minutes of my life listening to this. They call it romantasy.
Yeah, whatever. Sorry, go ahead.
But it has apparently taken over epic fantasy. Like in many stores, all of epic fantasy has been taken down and replaced with romantasy. And I personally, and I am going to get a little bit mean here, I blame George R.R. Martin and I blame Patrick Rothfuss. And I think a little bit of the blame, and I'm not saying he deserves blame. Apparently, Scott Lynch had some health problems, and genuine health problems stopped him from being able to finish his series. But at the same time, I think his series being unfinished also contributed to this. So George R.R. Martin's been 11 years since he produced his last book. in the Song of Ice and Fire. Patrick Rothfuss, it's been 13 years since
Wise Man's Fear.
Wise Man's Fear, yeah, since the last book of his supposed trilogy. So what that has caused, starting in epic fantasy and spreading out through a number of other genres where there is a difference in books between a book serial, which is a number of independent stories in a continuing series, and like a trilogy, which is a single story broken up into multiple volumes.
So all right, you're losing the plot for me here. You're saying you're blaming these people for the romantasy?
Right, because epic fantasy has stopped selling. People
I disagree, but I'm gonna let you finish.
Epic fantasy has stopped selling. Authors have said so. People starting new epic fantasy series have said so. They've stopped buying them. They've stopped launching them. And it's spread now. Trilogies, long series like A Song of Ice and Fire, that used to be big perennial money makers, that used to be able to tell people, okay, get into that, start your big series. You can build your entire career around it. Because once you start this series, what is it? The Wheel of Time series is a perfect example of this. You can no longer start them, and if you, because you can't sell them because nobody's buying them. The last person to get one of those series off the ground was Christopher Rocchio, who we had on the show. And so what is selling are books like the Dresden Files, which are serials, right? They're single individual books with its own independent beginning, middle, and story, who have overarching plots, but they aren't one big, huge, 1,000,000-word book or 2,000,000-word book or whatever. And that has spread now into other genres, to where one of the most common comments under books in Amazon, and one of the most common comments in Amazon descriptions is, this series is finished. In the description of the books by authors, this series is finished. Questions under the books, is this series finished? So professional authors have said this, indie authors have said this, trad pub authors have said this, readers have said this. It's in descriptions on Amazon very commonly, and in questions under books in Amazon. People have stopped buying series, not serialized books, but series. And so, because traditional epic fantasy has fallen off, what has replaced it is romantasy, because women are still buying romance novels. And romance novels are such a competitive business. They are like magazines in the 20s and 30s, where you need to find a niche in order to sell anything, because the market is stuffed full, or porn sites today, that they've taken over urban fantasy, which is where paranormal romance came from. And you have to be careful that every book you buy wasn't actually a romance novel in disguise as urban fantasy, to where Amazon had to ruthlessly impose sharp distinctions between paranormal romance and urban fantasy, and even like some sci-fi books and romance novels. But romantasy is this new replacement for epic fantasy that is basically romance novels with epic fantasy trappings. And on Amazon and in bookstores, it's growing to displace epic fantasy because there is no more new epic fantasy series being written, being published. So,
yeah, I get you. I only have one minor quibble, which is I actually don't see there is a causal relationship there. I think because women make up so many readers, and because they are, and this is not something that you're supposed to talk about in polite company, they are notorious porn addicts. They love the smutty fiction. I think it just is a natural consequence. I think it happens no matter what happens to the George R.R. Martins and Rothfusses and things. I think that slide is inevitable.
There are still lots of urban fantasy books being published that aren't paranormal romance. So you can't crowd out urban fantasy because it's still there. I published an article on the Geek Gab blog because of it, to list several of them, and there were several more I discovered that I didn't discover in time to put in that article. But there are no epic fantasy series to push them out. They're just not being published anymore. They're not being started up anymore. I agree that those kinds of things would be growing, but there would still be something to push back on them if more new ones were being launched, and there just aren't anymore. And Christopher Rocchio's series was launched 6-7 years ago, with The Sun Eater, I think. I own the book. I haven't started reading it yet because I have a lot of things that I am doing, a lot of things that I'm reading.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right, so that's what we're getting here with the fourth wing. We're
right.
talking about. Got it.
So the fourth wing is romantasy. In this world, I am not going to do a full review of the book because it is really large and really complicated. And to dissect all the things that don't make sense in the book would take me so long. But my suspicion is that the audience for these books don't care about world building. They don't care about internal consistency. They don't care if things really make sense. They care about the drama and the emotional journey of the main character. And so the kind of logical failures, even within the context of its own world, what happens doesn't make sense. And so the kind of logical failures that occur within the context of the book, just to carry it out, just for it to work, are completely nonsensical. I am not trying to insult the authoress. I'm sure she's a wonderful and nice person, but she seems like she doesn't have a deep understanding of. She's writing a very frothy and light book. She does not have a deep understanding of human character that, for example, J.R.R. Tolkien had. Bohemian is a phrase that I would use. I read 7 issues of the Saga comic series yesterday, and it struck me as this is my pocket review. It's a comic book series written by Portland hipsters for Portland hipsters, where the science fiction and fantasy elements are meshed with as much care and concern for continuity and sensibility as 2 trains running into each other at 100 miles an hour. This is a very bohemian book. It comes from a bohemian lifestyle or bohemian point of view. And I don't think the authoress really grasps or has a deep or compelling grasp on the difficulties of warriors, because it's all about warriors, all about people who get on the back of dragons and go out and fight for their lives in desperate battles. These people have to be desperate warriors to the extent that the very first thing happens when they get to this Dragon Rider College is that they do this walk across what they call the parapet. It's this really skinny, narrow beam way high up in the sky, such that if you fall off it, you fall so far you just die. And they expect like 50% of their class to die over the course of the first year through accidents, through getting in sparring matches and murdering each other. If you can dry gulch someone and nobody's around to see it, you just kill them, and that's fine. That's within the rules of the school. So everybody, and these are the good guys. This is the kind, generous kingdom that protects everybody. To be dragon riders, you have to go through this gauntlet. So you have to walk across this parapet and risk falling just to get to the other side. And the reason why is dragons are intelligent and they are very prickly about they're superior to humans. They know they're superior to humans. They're smarter, they're bigger, they're stronger. They can fry humans with their fire breath. They can whack you with their tail. They can claw you with their talons. They can step on you. They can land on you. They can flip you in the air and crunch you. They can do anything in an instant. They'll obliterate you like you never existed. With a burst of their fire, they can burn away your flesh. They can burn away your bones and reduce you to a black mark on the pavement. I don't know how their fire burns away bones. That is not mentioned in the novel, but they can burn away bones. So you walk on this parapet and you can fall, and you have to be mean and vicious and cruel so that the dragons will respect you, so that you can get picked by a dragon. Because if you don't get picked by a dragon at the end of your first year, you go back and redo your first year, because there are 2 ways to leave the school. Either you become a dragon rider or you die. That's it. Now I, in my little brain, wonder, what about getting crippled? What about getting paralyzed? What about getting sick and you're just, your health is broken, you get, some kind of permanent disease? What about it? It's not addressed in the book. Don't ask. Bad reader. So the main character has a disease which the main writer, the writer, also apparently has. I'm not sure if that makes the main character an author self-insert. I do not speculate. I don't know. Apparently it's a disease where her bones are brittle and she gets really easily, her limbs get really easily dislocated. So you wonder, as I wonder, what the hell a small, slight, tiny girl with brittle bones and dislocation, her muscles separate, her joints separate, is doing in the vicious dragon college where she fights every week and can possibly be killed, where one particular person who is much larger and more muscly than her has made it his personal goal in life to murder her to death because she's weak and thus weakens everybody else, where she can be dry gulched at any time. That's a Western phrase for you that don't know. That means to ambush somebody and murder her, and it's legal. That's part of the rules. If you don't get caught, you can murder anybody you want. If you're on a duel, a sparring match, and you kill somebody and everybody can see it and you did it on purpose and it's obviously on purpose and everybody can see it and you just say, oops, I didn't know I couldn't do that. You get away with it. Yes, that was a reference
to something that happened in the book.
It is actually a reference to something that happened in the book. It's also a reference to a comedy sketch on a TV show, or to a stand-up comedian special. People who know will know what I'm talking about.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. I didn't know I couldn't do that, or I didn't mean to do that, but just snapped his neck. Oops.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're giving this book and this author way too much credit. Just because I have known very closely a few people who read this sort of fiction, and whether she recognizes what she's doing for what it is, it's pornography. She's writing pornography, and she doesn't need any ability to craft a story or understand people better than whatever schlock she's been reading on her own.
Here's the thing.
The cookie cutter make believe sort of nonsense fiction.
There's plenty of attraction between characters for the first 80% of the book, but there's no sex.
Weird.
Because it's a romance novel, and this sort of tension between two characters who are kept apart by social issues, but who want each other, but who don't want it, but who also at the same time kind of hate each other, or are unsure of each other, is the point of the romance genre. That's how it works. So you keep them away as long as they can. I talked about the Sarah Moss books that I was listening to, the Crescent City books. She didn't have a sex scene until the second book in the trilogy. So, and admittedly, in this book, once they have sex, in the last, 20-25% of the book, they have like 4 or 5 sex scenes. But like the first 80% of the book, nothing. So it's smut once you get to that point. But the process of them staying apart is a large part of the appeal of the genre. And this is nothing for nothing. It's a little bit of a spoiler. For those of you who are Dark Sun fans out there, the eventual big bads of the final concluding battle of the book are defilers. I just found that kind of interesting. So here's the thing. And I want to get this out. So you may have to slow me down because I want to describe the romance plot in the book because that's the central plot in the book. So she has 2 men in her life. There is the absolutely rigidly adherent to all the rules in the rule book childhood friend hunk. Okay?
Okay.
Who says at one point in the book that she gets attacked 3-by-1 in the forest. And he's forced to confess that he wouldn't take any actions to save her because that would be against the rules. That she is his best friend, his childhood friend. He's in love with her. He wants to be with her, but he wouldn't do anything to help her because it's against the rules. He'd let her die because it's against the rules. I'm going to call him, for reasons that will shortly become apparent, Captain Narc. Okay. And then there is the brooding hunk who is almost a villain, but she falls for anyway. Okay. So, brooding hunk, Captain Narc. Brooding hunk has some secrets. And she discovers one of his secrets. Main character is Mary J. Sue. She is off all the Mary J. Sue charts. I had to invent brand new charts measuring Mary J. Sue's, and she promptly went off all those charts. She is into the stratosphere. And after I'm done describing this romance plot, I will talk about the Mary J. Sue-ness, and then we'll be done. So I'm going to try to hurry this up. So Mary J. Sue keeps secrets from her best friend, who she saved from dying on the parapet by doing something that would have gotten her and her best friend killed. She keeps secrets from all her other friends, her chain of command, her mom, her doctors, old friends she meets again by chance, royalty she's sworn to serve to the death, and Captain Narc. Those are all the people she's keeping secrets from. Actually, those are most of the people she's keeping secrets from. I may have missed a few. Brooding, nearly villain hunk has secrets. She finds out 1 or 2. He keeps all his other secrets from her. They fall in love. And guess what she does? I hope you're sensing the pattern.
My body's ready. Tell me.
Oh, I was hoping you'd guess. She keeps secrets from him.
What?
Now, the one thing I haven't told you yet is that Captain Narc, her childhood friend, can read minds.
Oh.
Because everybody who bonds with the dragon, once they've bonded with the dragon, they get great magical power, like a singular talent. They don't become spellcasters. They just get like one magical talent. So, childhood friend Hunk gets the power to read minds. Childhood friend Hunk, who I call him Captain Narc. So Captain Narc violates her mind, right? And guess what he does with the information he steals from her mind?
I bet it has to do with you calling him Captain Narc.
He narcs.
Dang.
As a result, a bunch of innocent people, completely morally innocent people, get sentenced to die. Some manage to escape. Now, if nearly villain Hunk, brooding Hunk, had told her even more of his secrets, more people would have been sentenced to die with no escape, and they would have died. We're talking thousands of people. Okay?
Wow.
So she keeps secrets from everybody. He keeps secrets from her, and if he hadn't, thousands of people would have died because Captain Narc narked. He read her mind without telling her. He mind raped her, something he had promised he would never do.
Of course.
So, end of the book. The main character finds out about brooding, nearly villain Hunk keeping secrets from her. Now, they've fallen in love. I want to make that clear. They've been, going back and forth and being here and there, but she just falls out of love with the stick in the mud for various reasons, not the least of which is him saying, yeah, I'd let you die. It's in the rules! What am I supposed to do? Save the woman I've been in love with since I'm 5? Psh. So her and brooding Hunk get together. They have sex so good they destroy all the furniture in her room. They blow out a window. They light trees on fire. I should mention her magic power is lightning. And she's just so massively in love with him. He's just so massively in love with her. And they are meant to be, they are literally bonded together for reasons I'll get into in a sec. So she finds out he was keeping secrets from her. And the woman keeping secrets from everybody says, how dare you keep secrets from me, to the man she's been keeping secrets from. She freaks, she throws a fit, she blows up the relationship and says, I can't trust you and I can't love a man that I can't trust because he kept secrets from her even though she was keeping secrets from him. And then the book ends.
I hate everything you just told me.
I suspected that might be the case. Now, I'm really trying to be perfectly fair to this book. I am not trying to magnify, if anything, because I've condensed so much of a really long book into a tiny little few minute long description. I have boiled out a whole lot of stuff. So here are the rules. Dragons are very rigidly, regal. Anybody who disrespects them, they murder. They're given, these dragon riders, when they walk into this place where they're told to meet the dragons for the first time, are given this list of rules. Don't look red dragons in the eye. They will immediately kill you. Walk with your eyes down around green dragons. Don't turn your back on these other types of whatever. Big list of rules. Different colors of dragon. If you finally bond with them, then everything's cool. Every dragon rider gets one dragon, and then they all get a magical power from this called their signet. Now, there is this thing called I want to say this very carefully because I don't want to be unfair. When I said this was YA, in most romance novels, there's only one guy and one girl. There's not a love triangle. YA tends to be infamous for love triangles. And there is a young adult novel that was very popular that had teens dueling each other to the death. And they especially had this big place where they all went, where a bunch of teens were set loose to duel each other to the death, and it was called the threshing. No, I'm sorry. It was called the reaping. And the threshing is from this novel, but other than being completely different, it was exactly the same as the Hunger Games. And the threshing is when they go to the place where all the dragons are and all rules are off. You're wandering around the forest, you find another dragon rider candidate who survived all year, who's proven they're physically worthy. They have learned all the combat they can. But if you can get together with a couple of your friends and go and gang up on somebody you don't like and murder them, it's all good. I mean, they've got upperclassmen, second and third years, walking around the forest, watching it happen, but they can't do anything. It's against the rules. So, one dragon per rider, that's the rule. And I am leading up to talking about how she's a Mary Sue. One dragon per rider. Mary Sue. Would you like to go guess where I'm going with this?
Oh, she's the one, man. She's the only one who can ride more dragons.
She bonds 2 dragons.
Wow.
But
Absolutely
that's not
totally.
all. That's not all.
Does she get an additional power when she bonds with that one?
She gets an additional power when she bonds with a second dragon. Oh, yeah.
So lightning wasn't sufficient. She gets more.
That's not all.
I'm at the edge of my seat.
First dragon she bonds is the second toughest dragon on the entire continent, who's been unbonded for years, who hasn't even shown up to be bonded for years. But he shows up to be bonded with her. And
wow.
The other dragon she bonds to is a color nobody's ever seen, that they didn't even know existed.
Wow.
That has maybe mentioned once in like folklore. And all dragons have different kind of tails. There's like a club tail, a spiked tail, a scorpion tail. But this dragon has a feather tail.
Oh, she's awesome.
Nobody knows what it means.
Wow, she's so cool.
Not only does she have lightning power, because she's physically the super weakest person, bonded to physically the most powerful dragon, that means her signet power, the lightning, is super powerful.
Whoa.
By the way, this is actually a character creation option you can take in Champions 5th edition. I wish I was making that up. So her lightning power is the most powerful lightning that anyone can remember in the last 100 years. I'm not making this up. I am making none of this up. I am not exaggerating any of this. And the power she gets by bonding to this gold feathered dragon is the power to stop time.
Oh boy.
Which she has to keep completely secret from everybody. So where the secret of keeping of secrets comes in. Because one, nobody has ever even known this was possible. It is completely unknown. Absolutely never even been heard of. Not just by people, but by dragons themselves. Also, I'm not done.
I still hate everything you say.
The brooding, nearly villain hunk rides the female blue dragon, who is one of the meanest, cruelest dragons known, and also the biggest. Only now she's the second biggest, because this black dragon that, the girl bonded to is now in play. But the red dragon, the female, who is bonded to the black dragon, who is male, they're mated. So her dragon and his dragon are mated. So dragon riders have a telepathic bond with their dragons. They can talk to them telepathically. So would you like to guess what it means now that brooding, nearly villain hunk, who is bonded to the red dragon and they can talk telepathically, and all dragons talk telepathically amongst themselves. That's just their language as a species. They don't talk physically. But the black dragon is bonded to the girl, to Mary J. Sue, and she can talk telepathically to it. Would you like to guess what unique ability that very few other people have ever gotten is bestowed upon them?
Is it telepathy?
It's telepathy.
Wow.
The brooding, nearly villain hunk can talk to his girlfriend telepathically.
Wow.
So Mary J. Sue gets not one, not two, but 3 powers from being a dragon rider.
She's so cool.
So when I said that the level of Mary Sue was off the charts, even by the standards of this world, where you take bonding to a dragon, you get telepathic abilities to talk to your own dragon, and you get a power that might be greater, that might be smaller.
She got in line 3 times.
Yeah. And she got the biggest and best dragon ever. And she got the uniquest, specialist, most neatest dragon ever.
Wow. She's so cool.
And the best warrior at school, the top warrior at school, the strongest, badassest, most cut, chiseled, handsomest hunk at school is the brooding, nearly villain guy, who's now her boyfriend, who fell for her. I didn't mention that before, I'm really sure. I felt like I had to mention that.
Oh yeah, of course.
Also, she's really smart because she used to be training as a scribe before she decided to become a dragon rider.
Oh wow.
So she is very much educated on all kinds of things that other people don't know.
Man, what a character. She's really an inspiration.
So I'll be honest, I actually like the 2 Crescent City books I listened to. And when the second half of the graphic audio book of the third one comes out in March, I'm going to finish the trilogy on that. But I think if I read and or listened to any more of this trilogy, I would become a lot more vicious. I am kind of wondering where the series goes. I do want to know where she takes it and what happens in it. But at the same time, I think I will have to recuse myself from reviewing it because I don't know that I can be. I have a feeling like I have been as fair to this series as I possibly can be. Also, the same thing I noticed with Sarah Moss, I notice here, which is all the men act like women. She tries to make them act like men, but I don't know that she's aware enough to know that men and women actually do act differently. They're all really insecure and spend way too much time in their own heads and thinking things. And it's just not, especially big, muscly, alpha guys don't tend to think like that. They tend to be highly motivated and do things.
Mm-hmm.
They don't tend to spend a lot of time cogitating verbally in their head. It's all subconscious or unconscious. That doesn't mean they're dumb. It just means they're motivated by doing.
Could mean they're dumb. No. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they self-motivated, externally or internally motivated, if you will.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
They're
not prone to navel gazing or self-doubt.
Right. Whereas, and I have to believe that women are way more motivated by self-doubt and thoughts and worries and things like that than men are, because that's how women are presenting themselves in all these books.
Mm-hmm.
I am allowing women to present women to me and reaching conclusions. So, and again, I'm not trying to be harsh on it. It's not like this is a poorly composed book. The writing itself isn't bad. She did a good job describing the final battle. I enjoyed reading about the final battle. It was exciting, There was big, huge combat going on. There was a bunch of flying creatures going around. There was magic being used. There was innocent refugees trying to flee into a mine. People were getting killed. Bad guys are getting killed. I'm not trying to say this like this is an incompetent book. It's not stupidly plotted. That is, character motivations, once they're established, are carried through the whole book. Characters don't suddenly begin acting in ways that are bizarrely different just because the plot needs them to go that direction. The weaknesses in this work are not weaknesses of her being a bad writer. So I'm not trying to, kind of like Yahtzee. I'm sort of a praiser by exception in that all the things I'm not talking about are fine. I'm not mentioning them because they're okay. Like scene descriptions, they're great. This guy has some, the nearly villain Hunk, he has shadow powers. And when she describes how the shadow powers are being used and what he's doing with them, he's imaginative with them. things he does with them. A couple of things that come up later are unexpected, but they're imaginative. She kind of, you see where she set up that he could have done that later, and that's okay. It's a little bit of a surprise that she puts in there. I'm not saying she's a bad writer. I'm not trying to say that the book is absolute garbage beginning to end. It's just all the things I've mentioned are really present. So I'm really not trying to be cruel to the book. I'm not trying to be cruel to the author. I'm not trying to say, hey, single thing about this book is garbage. I am saying that it probably won't appeal to men because it's a very female-oriented book.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are men-oriented books that have sex scenes. You can call them smut. And I've read some of these lit RPG books I've read, I have been reading, have gone as long, up to the last 20% before they've had a sex scene. They've been building to it. You know what's coming, but they go as long without having a sex scene. And they're basically masculine-oriented, relationship books where the relationship is kind of a subplot, and he's a big conquering hero going out into the wilderness and killing monsters, and he gets this girl and brings her back, and she's longing for him, but all these other things are getting in the way, and finally, bam, explicit sex scene, which I skip over. I don't read the sex scenes, guys. Sorry. It's just not my thing. It's not why I'm reading these books. I'm mostly reading these books for curiosity, wondering why the Sarah Moss books and why this book are so popular. Wondering why lit RPG is so popular. Or what's in it that people like. And then, so they're kind of mirrors of each other. One from a masculine point of view, one from a feminine point of view. And I genuinely like the men's more because they're more adventurous and less focused on the drama and the politics and the maneuvering and the stuff. They're more focused on the actual strength and struggle and combat and prowess and whatever. So again, it is not that this book is entirely without merit. It's just wrapped around a bunch of stuff that about the character that kind of aggravated me.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's definitely a bunch of aggravating traits.
And the Mary Sue was just off the charts. That was the big aggravating thing to me. I mean, even if you have a character who you want to make special, that was so much. That was just so much. That was way over the top.
Just in case you can get the message, she's amazing.
If you had made this about a man, if a man had written this, the brooding hunk, nearly a villain, would have been a perfect masculine character. He's big, he's bad, he comes in at the first year, fights his way to being the biggest, baddest, and toughest. He's got one of the toughest dragons on the continent, but that's it. He's got a really good power, but he doesn't have the best power ever. He doesn't have 3 powers, And yeah, maybe he gets married to or falls in love with the unattainable hottest woman in the kingdom, and then somehow finds a way to overcome his past shame, because he has a past shame. His father led the rebellion against the kingdom, and he's got a mark that marks his family as a traitor. So, whatever. There's some cool stuff there, but there is cool stuff in here. But that would be a great balanced kick-ass character, like Conan, balanced kick-ass character. But just the Mary Sue was way too much of a good thing. Like a third of that would have been fine. All of that was too much. That's it. I'm done. We're done. We're way over time.
Yeah, you definitely went long on that one. You warned me, but whatever. Never read garbage. Hey, I'd just like to thank you for hanging out and chatting, Daddy Warpig. It was fun doing a review show. I don't know what we're gonna do next week, but we'll let you everybody know. I really appreciate.
Hopefully, I'll have Blood Drive finished so we can review it.
That'd be great. Thanks for everybody hanging out in the chat. We had Simon Hogwood and Bradford talking a lot. Appreciate you guys. I hope everybody listening later really enjoyed the recap. But I'm done for the week, DW. Have a great night and take us away.
Okay, folks, we want to thank everyone who tuned in live. I want to thank everyone who will tune in later. This has been Geek Gab on youtube.com/Geek Gab. Once again, that's youtube.com/Geek Gab. We're available also on the Apple iTunes Store, on the Google Play Store, and on SoundCloud.com. Just do a search for Geek Gab. Download us on the device of your choice. Listen to us on the web. Listen to us on your computer because we're available everywhere to make it more convenient for our amazing and awesome listeners. This has been Geek Gab for Monday, February 17th, 2025. We are signing out for today, folks. But don't you worry. Don't you fret. We will be back.